and welcome to today's episode of The Ways of the World, where we focus upon a different country and culture and discover the different ways of the world through the lenses of Villanova students and faculty. These Villanovans have studied abroad and are here to share their experiences. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky. Today will be a little bit different. Instead of focusing on just one place, I have with me a very special guest who has been everywhere, pretty much. I have with me Hezekiah Lewis, who is an associate professor at Villanova University, as well as the director to the Waterhouse Family Institute at Villanova, which is incredible. Heze, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Very proud to see you in that wonderful seat over there. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I love it.
So, okay, where in the world have you been?
I mean, for me, I just love traveling the world. I mean, better question, where haven't I been? And there's still a lot of places that I really would love to get to. But for me, what really sparked that was my passion to really find my identity. Ghana is like the home of all homes for me. Really thinking about this concept of like, where do I come from? Who am I? Really gravitating towards like that sense of foundation when it comes to just really identity. And Ghana was really what sparked that for me. So after I took that first trip, I've been to the continent of Africa, from South Africa to East Africa, Italy to Brazil to Costa Rica, Tanzania. I mean, it's been all over, and the beautiful part of it is that I get to share that with my kids. Like my son has been to over 15 different countries and he's 9. I didn't go out of the country until I was in grad school. So for me, I felt there was a sense of urgency to really have that opportunity to go and really speak to others in different ways. And I don't know any of the languages, but we find a way to really communicate.
So your first trip out of the country was that trip to Ghana.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
It was a spiritual awakening. And I say that because, for me, I didn't understand how connected I was until I actually stepped foot there. It was a painful reality as well to really think about history. For, those that don't know much about the history of African Americans, Ghana is pretty much the birthplace of why a lot of folks that look like me are here today. They call them slave castles, I call them slave dungeons. Cape Coast Dungeon was the actual place where a lot of my ancestors came from. So being able to have that opportunity to really step foot on those grounds, it's a visceral experience that I can't really put into words. Mm-hmm. Like you can't recreate that moment. Mm-hmm. And it really made me really understand how powerful my folks really were. Mm-hmm. Just the perseverance and me even being able to sit here today and have this conversation with you was because of those ancestors that went through that door of no return. Mm-hmm. And taking that pilgrimage back there and really figuring out a way to return and having my daughter be able to see that, my son be able to see that, my wife, my family, to really go back and really build that bridge is what really motivates me to really travel even more. Ghana, I've probably been there over 10 times now. It's like my second home, but I really credit that place as a space to show me that we can, and how global our society is, how small the world truly is. Mm-hmm. We can have these global conversations, and I think it's so important. So Ghana woke that spirit up in me, that fire, that passion to travel. Yeah.
So even though you've been there more than 10 times, do you feel that every time you go there, you find something new?
Something new, something fresh, I mean, it's so, it's so funny. My aunt's there now. She's calling me every day, giving me updates. And the last time I was in Ghana was they call it the year to return, the 2019. Mm-hmm. But I was there in January 2020. We all know what happened after that. Yeah. The world shut down. So I tend to bring new folks there. Mm-hmm. I became not a tour guy, but a spiritual guy for a lot of people, to really find ways to track. Because I don't travel normal. I'm not like a touristy type person. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think people like to go and just kind of relax and, go to the beach, and you need that. I'm more of an adventurous type person. I go off the beaten path. I really like to, I don't like a map. I like to get lost in places. Mm-hmm. I like to get lost in conversations, and I get, eat the foods and really immerse myself in the community and have this more of a visceral experience that really puts my full body and soul into that. Mm-hmm. And I like to bring people on that path too. So people like to travel with me because they know it's going to be a crazy time, but in a good way, because it's really going to challenge you to get out of your comfort zone. Whenever you have excursions, I'm not going off the itinerary. We're going to make our own itinerary. That's just the type of person I am. I just love to really find the unpredictable, ability of like people and places and really find that connection. So I see something different every time, because it's such a big country. It's such a big country, and there's so many avenues and places and people, and you just don't have enough time in the day to really meet them all in 2 weeks or a month. It's not even enough time to really kind of get the true essence. I haven't even seen all of Ghana yet, and I want to still go back and explore even more.
How did you turn this passion for traveling and broadening cultural horizons with filmmaking?
Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful question, and that's something for me. When I went to film school at UCLA, we did a thesis project. And I went to a talk with Maya Angelou, and they said, people were talking about stories of African kings and queens. And every time I looked it up, I saw Shaka Zulu. There wasn't a lot of stories out there about African kings and queens. Mm-hmm. And she said that's the plight of Black films. There's not enough of those stories that show the beauty of who we are. You see a lot of slave films. You see a lot of films about being in the hood, the ghetto. It's like, but what else is there out there for us? I wanted to find a way to tell that beautiful story of our people. Mm-hmm. And I kept looking up in doing research, and Nana Yaa Asantewaa came up. Her name came up a lot. She was like the Black Joan of Arc. She was like really stood up against the British soldiers in the 1900s, and this is an African queen who led an army of men into battle. And that story was so inspiring because she really reminded me of my mother and how powerful she is, how strong a woman she is. My mother was my father. My mother was everything to me, and I wanted to do something to really pay respect to her, and strong, powerful women like her all over the world. So for me, I felt like that film really talked about protecting culture and your identity, and sometimes nurture, meaning that woman has to be that protector, somebody that really I looked up to, and I wanted to say thank you. So I said, I'm gonna make that into my thesis project. And I took a trip out there and just kind of did the research, and I just could not do just a documentary. I needed to do something. I want to do a narrative film that really sparked a lot of these universal themes. And that film really blew me away. It really was like the birthplace for me saying, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I call it Filmmakers Boot Camp. We were out there for months, and we shot the film. We were supposed to shoot the film in 9 days. We shot it in 4.5 because we lost a day, because it was a lot of Murphy's Law was in full effect, right? What can go wrong will go wrong. But the beauty of production, the show must go on. I always call it now the Heze's Law. The show must go on, right? And for me, I just felt so inspired to make movies, right? And Ghana was like an awakening, like I said, a pilgrimage for me to go back and really find my roots. And I was like, how can you share that experience? And like, I don't know, it was like I wanted to do more. And when I first started teaching the social justice doc, that was the first country we went to on our international trip was Ghana, because I wanted to share that experience with these students. And they did an amazing job. We talked about post-traumatic slave syndrome and its effects on the educational system. And we paralleled a school in Ghana, Moccasin, to a school in Philadelphia, Strawberry Mansion, and paralleled 2 young men. And they saw the similarities. They didn't speak the same language, but they moved the same. They had the same plights. They deal with colonialism, we deal with slavery here. So how do you intertwine and build that bridge and that hope to really hear that conversation in these parallel worlds that was so similar was beautiful. And the students were totally transformed from that. So using film as a way to build a conversation, but also be able to travel in these spaces and have these deeper conversations with people is what made me fall in love with this process.
Yeah. I know that conversations are so important to you. So something that I want to ask is, how do you navigate through language barriers? Because as you said, you've been to all these places. It's impossible to know all the languages of all the places that you've been to. So how do you navigate through that? There's
a feeling. There's an intuition, language, body, eyes. Like, there's so much about how you can really emote, like, and feel an emotion of somebody. I tell the story about I went to Costa Rica, and when we came into the space, and we were this community was dead. It was like no one was out. We had this big tourist bus, and I feel really bad because it's like we're in this impoverished area on a tourist bus. Like, I feel like it was like poverty tourism. I didn't feel comfortable, being in that type of space, because I didn't want them thinking we're coming in, parachuting in, telling the story and leaving. And when we got off that bus, usually they just use people just driving by, but we stopped. We got in, we went into the community, we stayed there day after day after day. like I said, I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but I felt so connected. And there's this woman named Mama. She's like the matriarch of the whole area. We never spoke, but we just always locked eyes. We always were connected. She would feed us food. When we left that place, they were taking things off their walls and giving it to us. The whole community signed this like, really, I'm a big guy, so this little bitty like soccer jersey with all their names, and they gave it to me. I just broke down. I was in tears, and I had to kind of step away from the group, so I don't want nobody to see me crying up. But I stepped away from the group, and I just felt this hand on my back, and I turned around, it was Mama, and she just hugged me, and she just said, "Gracias, gracias." It was like, and that for me, I knew in that moment, like, this is right. This feels good. It was like a parade. We came in, ghost town, we left to a parade of people that we are going to be connected to for the rest of our lives. Didn't have to speak the language at all to understand the love that they felt and how we feel for each other. And I felt that love. I felt that genuine connection just by that sense of touch and that contact of the eyes.
Yeah. How do you determine locations?
Great question. And for those, it's hard because when you gain access to a place, right, you have to be careful, in how you deal with films, because you don't want to exploit people. You don't want to exploit communities and things like that. My biggest rule is that we're not going to parachute into a community and parachute out, right? So I usually take a trip in the summer to kind of, get the assessment of the land, the logistics, where we're going to stay, what we're going to eat, how we're going to get around, like the basics. But I'm also there to really try to see who can we talk to? What are some possible stories? It's easier when you're dealing with an organization or someone that's connected to them because they already have a connection. They already have access. And these folks trust these folks sometimes. So we have to find a way to really navigate now. The downside of that, sometimes the organization wants you to do a story about them and it becomes like an infomercial about the work that they do. Sometimes the work isn't always good. And you hear from the community, they're like, yeah, you might think, and we want to tell the truth. We tell character-driven stories. Now, we have a multimedia team that might go and really highlight the work that the organization does, but the documentary team, we're there to tell the people's story. Whether that be they love this or they hate this or whatever, we want to tell the authentic story. So really engaging. Now, I might engage. I might see, hey, you have a great story, but then when we get there, there's somebody juggling fire and spitting whatever. Like, how can we not turn that camera and also engage with that story as well? So sometimes it's like the luck of the draw, or sometimes it's like you really have to do a lot of research. So it takes a lot. The problem with you could research all day long, but you have no control of what the story controls you. You can outline, create questions. We might engage in a conversation. I might have 20 questions, but I might only get to 2 because now you're so connected that the conversation can go anywhere, and that's the beauty of it. That's really makes it authentic. That makes it organic. So it's the luck of the draw. I mean, and what I want to do too is build sustainable relationships, because not only are we telling the film, but we have an initiative that goes along with it, right? I went to one place and I saw a woman that looked like my grandmother. She had a cup of water, like a glass, and we're walking in the middle of this field. She takes that glass, puts it in the ground, comes up with dirty water, and drinks it. And this is like right before the pandemic. So we're in the 2020. And I'm shocked. I'm like, how did this woman, in this day and age, with all the technology, everything that we have in this world, why is she doing that? I said, not on my watch. I can't do it. Won't happen again. And I was like, if we can now go and motivate 20 students to go out and make do this work and hopefully build this initiative, who can, like anybody can, right? That's what motivated me to go to that location, because I didn't want to see that grandmother have to really go and literally take a cup in the ground and drink that water. From that film, we raised over $90,000, got 2 solar water wells in both the villages that we were in. So in the next 20 plus years, that won't ever have to happen again with this. Not saying that's a solution. We don't have a solution to the problem. We can build the conversations, and hopefully that's going to motivate those watching to really do a call to action and actually do something. It doesn't have to be global. It could be down the street. But I want to tell those universal stories, and we find those locations that can really represent universal stories around the world.
Yeah. So I know earlier you had said that you don't really have an itinerary. You just kind of will do whatever. So I'm sure there have been many, but can you pinpoint maybe a couple examples of a time where you really weren't expecting to find something and you did, and what you found was just so surprising and so incredible?
I mean, it's funny because almost every story is like that, but to really be specific about something that is the ideal situation. Like, we won an Oscar before for one of our films. Never expected any of those, right? The accolades I don't expect. And I don't really care. I mean, be honest. I think it's important because it's like, you're getting homage, you're getting respect for your work, but I don't think it's about the entertainment value of it all and how beautiful and slick the shots look. I really think it's about the core of the story. There was a place that we went to, and we, like I said, we start off with a doc team and we have a multimedia team. When I first went out to the location, and this is in Kenya, I saw and met all these amazing folks, and this organization took me around to all these different places. It's like 20 different locations. So it's 20 different possibilities of telling stories. And I think the organization was so excited because it was like, want to show me this. I was like, this is great, but we got to pick one, and it was like, so I was like, okay, now we have to compromise. All right, so multimedia team, you're going to go with the organization. Y'all get little vignettes of all these different places. Doc team, we got to find a story. So now we had these two powerful women that were about like empowering women. So they had the slogan, empower the girl, empower a nation. And it was beautiful. I mean, they were powerful women. So I was like, we have to tell this story. So we followed them for the majority of the time. But then there was this beautiful little school called Nina. And it was a school for orphans, like kids. So people that had these babies that were deaf didn't know how to take care of them, so they would drop them off at this orphanage and just leave them. And they were just neglected. These kids were so beautiful. It was but and the folks that worked with these kids were so passionate. And they would work and try to get, and they were doing all these, but they were living in these dormitories where bugs were destroying their legs, so they were getting all these diseases. I don't know how to build a dormitory floor. I don't know anything about structures, but I know we got an engineering school that's amazing, that does that type of work. I could tell the story, but how can we get sustainable people, relationships, people here that can help hopefully build that floor? That was my mission. When people saw that film, not only did the engineering school, Jordan Emilio, thank God bless his soul, got a group of students from the engineering school, and they went out to Kenya their next break. They assessed everything that needed to be done with the floor. Next break, they built the floor, dormitory floor done. They didn't stop there. They added more projects. So now every single break, a group of Villanovan students from the engineering school goes to Kenya, goes to that location that we filmed in, and do more. They just sent me a picture. We was in the Philippines this year, and they sent me a video. They got a water well in Nina.
Wow.
The first time they ever had access to clean water in that community. It brought tears to my eyes. Like I get emotional every time I'm thinking about these projects. It's a personal thing for me. Because like I said, I can care less about the movie. The product is going to speak for itself. The process is everything. And that process of us really connecting and engaging with those communities is so important. And I think it's the reason why we do what we do.
Right.
The initiatives are just as important as the production.
Right. That's incredible. Is there a particular culture that you find you just really resonated with?
I feel like it's hard because they're all different, right? You resonate with them in different ways. But I think for me, it really, I like to put the emphasis on the class, because we're not there to like teach. We're there to learn. And I love the culture of this program in a way because we have so many different people from so many really different backgrounds. And what we talk about is privilege, power, and difference. And a lot of times when people hear those terms, they get offended or they get upset or riled up. Privilege is not a bad word. It's how you use it, right? How we use our power. How do we use and really understand what difference is? So for me, I like to see the transformation of our group as they grow and really understand who they are. Because we had to bring ourselves to that culture as well. We had to bring pieces of our lives and our vulnerability to that culture, really to any of these cultures. We're asking them, imagine 20 people coming to your home that do not speak English and say, hey, tell me your deepest, darkest stories. And we wouldn't allow that. Like, I'm just amazed by these folks allow us to come into these spaces, they're intimate spaces, and tell us their truths. We're not giving voice to the voiceless. They have voices. We are amplifying that with the tools and the resources that we have in order to be, and I don't want to call them subject. I hate when people read all these books about documentary filmmaking, like the subject this way. We do this. That's wrong. They're collaborators. They're participating. We are collaborating in this story journey together. They're not subjects. So that's what I try to teach our students about the culture of this process of filmmaking. but also bringing your own culture, your own selves to the table, that's what's going to open up those conversations. The first day we get into these communities, we do not bring out cameras. We're having discussions. We're connecting on a human to human level. And every night we reflect. There's reflections that we reflect on privilege, power, and difference, and how that really engages in the situations that we're in now, because every culture is completely different. When we go to Ghana, when we go to India, we go to all these different, you can go a couple of miles away, it's a completely different experience. Hell, they don't even speak the same language in India. It's like so you learn so much about yourself and like a lot of the stereotypes that you may have. We went to South Africa one year, right? And we were dealing with these kids with HIV. And I had to bring the nursing school in to kind of give a presentation, because I think a lot of people have misconceptions. Oh, they cough on you. What if they touch you? What if they cough? And I'm like, it was like real fears that, I can get, AIDS or attract HIV if somebody. It was like this notion, and it was like, hand sanitize yourself down. After they went, these kids are climbing all over. And these are like kids that, once again, also kind of similar to the Nina story, that were staying in these locations because people didn't just know how to take care of them. They were kind of outcasts of society. And they were like all over the kids hanging. It was like their misconception, their stereotypes, and what they thought about that culture completely melted away once they immersed themselves. Sometimes we're just scared to immerse ourselves because we're so caught up into like what might be and not really thinking about what is. And we're thinking about the what might because that's what we heard. And what we're hearing, you got to watch where you get your sources from. I always tell my students, we have to unlearn what we've learned. That's part of this process. You have to unlearn what we've learned in order to be really open to what's the future and how we can engage in that future with others.
Right.
So.
Do you find, although every culture is unique and very different, do you find that there is some sort of interconnectedness between all of the places that you've been to?
I think there's a sense of universality within all, right? There is, and I think that when you think about cultures, right, it might be a different food, different language, different style, different way of life, right? But when you think about issues like we're doing a film now, and it's a perfect example. We're doing a film in the Philippines, right? And it's a place called Boracay where it's an indigenous, the first people on that land, so Afro-Indigenous culture, and they're like relegated to like this really small portion of land. Boracay, if you go there, it's like, amazing, beautiful beaches. It's sensory overload. But everybody forgets about the Ati. You never hear about the Ati tribe. And when I was there, I just saw these little kids walking by. I was like, who are these kids? I'm like, what? And they're speaking a different language. They're going to school. And the guy was like, oh, that's the Ati. I was like, who are that? And then he started sharing with me that story. I'm like, would you like to meet them? Of course. I want to meet them. So we get there, and their story is about they want to make sure people understand who they are because they're fighting for their land. And people are just trying to take their land. Similar story down the street from here. You go to the Hamptons, the Shinnecock tribe. A lot of people don't know that they even exist. Like, they got a Native American tribe in the South Hamptons? Yes. And they are a beautiful people. It's a beautiful community. They got, kind of pushed into this little small portion of land. They were the first contact folks who were here. Both stories on the other side of the world completely, and it's all about land, preserving your culture, understanding. So we're telling the parallel story of those two worlds. So we can see it's not just a domestic problem, it's a global problem. And that's what I love about having these conversations, making these films, is to really have people understand. The second film we're also doing in the Philippines is a small island called Halian. You can walk that island in an hour. The only way you can get to that island is by boat, which is unbelievable. It's like, real life, like, Moana. Like, I'm like, it's a magical place. There's a woman there, a young woman, her name is Lady. She's an environmental warrior. She literally gets up every weekend. She takes these little kids to go and do beach cleanups because all the plastics and things that we have all around the world is washing up on this beautiful shore. When I say when you walk down, you pick up seashells that are, it's magical. And she wants these kids to protect that island. And she wants us to really understand we have to protect our land and keep that beauty. And just to see that's going to inspire a lot of people. That small island in Halian that no one would ever probably go to. And really understanding the importance of how we need to protect our land, that also helps us preserve and protect our culture.
Right. I'm curious, this is a little bit unrelated.
Yeah.
What is the craziest flight pattern that you've taken? Because I've been on a couple flights with you and we took some really out of the way turns.
Yeah.
But what's the most craziest route that you've taken?
I mean, for me, I mean, unfortunately, Philadelphia, got to get this right. I mean, the Philadelphia International Airport is the hardest place to fly out of internationally, but we usually get out to JFK. I remember one year, and this is the craziest part, I tore my Achilles, right? So I'm not supposed to travel for almost 6 weeks. I had to leave in 2 weeks. So I'm on this scooter, I had this boot on, and I'm like, we got to go. So we went from, I kid you not, we had, and this is the year, sometimes when you have to go to these different places, you have to really also look at the kind of travel advisory, like what's safe, because, university have to make sure we're taking students to safe places. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, well, I'll go to 2 places just in case, because they, were really pushing to go to Ethiopia. And I went from JFK to Dubai to India, back to Dubai to Ethiopia to Greece to Newark, and then flew back the day, I think it was 4th of July, the day of 4th of July. So my foot was a balloon, to say the least. But it was important because we had to make all those patterns because I wanted to make sure that, and the crazy part about it was, I always say things happen for a reason. We were going to do the film in India, mm-hmm. and they had the Puja Festival. Like right before we were leaving, it's, oh yeah, this is going to be perfect. You guys are going to be here doing the Puja Festival. And I was like, whoa, okay. But he didn't tell me the whole city shut down. So you can't move anywhere. So it would have been a week of us just stuck in these places. So I'm like, oh no. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot. But it might not work. And it changes because it changes by the lunar calendar. So it's never the same mm-hmm. time. But we're going to eventually head back to that space. But that's why I'm glad we did go to Ethiopia, because then we were able to kind of pivot and make sure we got that film going. Yeah. That film deal with the safe surgeries and women in health. And that was another amazing experience.
Oh, wow. Do you have future travel plans for next year?
Yes. Interesting, we might be doing Morocco next year. And it's based off of one of our, she's a current student now graduating. She's going up for a Fulbright. But she's so passionate about this research, and she came to me like almost a year ago and was like, hey, can I pitch you this idea? And she stayed on top of it. So this will be the first time we actually have something that's like a solid research project that mm-hmm. really helps out, probably, saves half the battle of figuring out what that story is in that development stage. Yeah. So I'm really excited about the possibilities. But yeah, we'll be going out there. We're going out there this summer, a couple of months in Morocco, but also I'm going to be doing another program similar to my position with the Waterhouse Family Institute. We're kind of implementing another program in Ghana. So in 2026, we're hoping to start a 3 to 4 credit course, 3-week course in Ghana that kind of is really filtered on, or really kind of, centered around sports and communication.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Do you know what that's going to look like yet? Or?
Not yet. I mean, we're going to go out there and I do know the biggest part for me is making sure that we have the opportunity for these students to really experience the slave dungeon. Mm-hmm. We did a pilot program years ago, but it was more kind of production based. Mm-hmm. I don't want this program just to be based on production, because I want any professors that are interested in traveling into these spaces mm-hmm. to really think about, how can we implement sports and, communication sports, and what are some things that we can kind of combine to make sure that these students have an experience? So I would say this summer we're kind of working out the logistics and seeing what partnerships we can have out there with different universities, but also making sure that we have that cultural piece that's also going to really help them develop. Because I think no matter what, there's 100 different ways, 100 different experiences that you can. Yeah. I will say I'm really targeting, hopefully, like we can get a lot of athletes involved. Problem when you become an athlete, you can't really study abroad because you're dedicated to your sport, which is respectable. That's one thing I missed, being a football player here at Villanova. But I feel like they need that experience. So mm-hmm. I try to find a portion of time where people are not in practice, but they're also not in school. So it's like that right after graduation, but right before first session of summer school is a nice little sweet spot. So
that's awesome.
We're trying to work it out.
Ooh, that's exciting. That's exciting.
Yes.
Is this going to be your first time going to Morocco?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. First time pretty much like doing any project in Northern Africa. Yeah. It's very, very excited about it. I mean, the group that we assembled is amazing. I'm really excited about this group. We also implemented a new process for the course where we do like a dialogue course as well that's embedded within the course itself. So, I'm really, really excited to see what this team puts together.
Good. That's exciting.
Yes.
Heze, my final question for you is, what advice would you give to someone who really aspires to travel the world and experience different cultures?
Don't be afraid. Don't listen to what people say. I think a lot of times we get caught up, and it's human nature. We want to get advice, we want to hear people, but it really comes down to like, what do you want, and how passionate are you to really find that sense of purpose when you travel? Don't be afraid to go behind. Be careful too, because a lot of times people sensationalize places. There was a time when I was in Colombia, and this guy was selling like these trips to the Palenque. I was like, Palenque, what is this? It was like, and I just feel like it was like he took like money from people, and we're like walking around these neighborhoods, and was almost like this doesn't feel right. But he was trying to show us where the black people lived in the Palenque, and this is the first it just felt inauthentic. It was like people were dressed up dancing for it. I just feel like we're in poverty tourism. Be careful not to exploit people while you're there, because a lot of times it feels like you're just using them for entertainment. And like I said, sometimes people are there just to be entertained and just relax, but I tend to travel outside of that because I feel like that's the true, authentic, and people like to see that. That's why when people come to you and they see that you're, oh, wow, you're going to try this? You're not going to get McDonald's, right? So really think about those elements. And that's why one of the biggest rules I have when I travel with students, we don't eat Western foods. We need to try and respect the culture that's there. Not saying that the culture doesn't, they do eat McDonald's in certain places, but we can get away from that for a minute, right? And let's really try something that's more like from the kitchen table, not a chain store. So for me, I think this really, do not be afraid to immerse yourself. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. And do not be afraid to try to engage, even if you don't know the language. You have tools nowadays with, the apps and all that makes it a lot easier, but this really, don't go by the GPS, really go off and try to figure out a new path, a new way to really engage and see that world. Smell it, taste it, feel it, like understand those textures of what they are and really have respect. Sometimes when you greet people, if you go left to right, that's disrespect. Like sometimes you have to greet people from right to left. Look them in the eyes, really engage, like really learn. If you make the mistake, don't beat yourself up, stand up and try it again. And I think the world is such a small place, and that's why I try to instill in my kids, it's easy to get around, especially for us. But also understand, don't make promises that you can't keep. I think a lot of times people go out and they promise people things, and that's why they have a hard time trusting. So don't make promises that you can't keep, and I guarantee you your time will be beautiful.
Thank you for coming, Heze. This was awesome. I love hearing about everywhere you've been.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching today's episode. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky. Stay tuned for a new location next week.